Okay, so you know all that advice we always hear about getting a full 8 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was reading this book called How to Sleep Like a Caveman,
Oh, interesting.
and it turns out our caveman ancestors,
Yeah.
they might not have slept the way we think they did.
Really?
Yeah, it made me question everything I thought I knew about sleep.
That's pretty cool. How so?
Well, the book, it argues that cavemen, they might not have slept in one long stretch.
Oh.
Instead, they might have had like 2 separate sleep periods
Two.
with a period of quiet wakefulness in between.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
they had a built-in break in the middle of the night.
That's fascinating. So, like, almost like a segmented sleep schedule.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And there's this idea called the
Yeah.
sentinel hypothesis.
Okay.
It suggests that some members of the tribe, maybe like the older ones,
Right.
or the ones who were just naturally more alert, they'd wake up more easily at night.
Interesting.
So it was almost like a built-in security system for the tribe.
Wow, I've never thought of it that way.
So maybe grandma waking up at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
it isn't just a quirk,
Right.
It could be a sign of her inner cave woman protecting the tribe even in her sleep.
Huh. That's pretty wild. It makes you wonder if
There's
those
wrong.
middle of the night awakenings,
Yeah.
the ones that we all experience sometimes, are actually like totally normal,
Right.
maybe even beneficial in some ways.
Exactly. And the book, it also talks about how cavemen were so in tune with their environment.
Like, how so?
Well, especially with natural light and temperature.
Ah, makes sense.
They didn't have artificial light messing with their circadian rhythms,
Oh.
like we do today.
That's true.
Huh?
Yeah, they were way more sensitive to those natural changes.
Right.
In fact, even today,
Yeah.
it mentions that in modern hunter-gatherer tribes,
Huh.
one of the cues that it's bedtime is when the temperature drops.
Oh, wow.
So even today, that's still a thing.
That's so interesting. It makes you wonder what other environmental cues we're missing out on,
Yeah.
because we're constantly surrounded by artificial light and temperature control.
Totally. And the book really emphasizes that, like
Right.
our modern environment with all the constant stimulation and artificial light,
Yeah.
it's a major culprit when it comes to messing up our natural sleep patterns.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're living in a 247 world, but our bodies,
Yeah.
they're still wired to follow the rhythms of the sun.
Yeah, exactly. That mismatch, it can really, really mess with us.
For sure. One of the things that really surprised me in this book
Oh, yeah.
was this concept of
What is it?
sleep restriction therapy.
Sleep restriction.
Yeah. It sounds totally counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, the book suggests that sometimes, like, intentionally limiting your time in bed can actually lead to more restful sleep.
Really? That's wild.
Yeah. It's like you're
Yeah.
concentrating the sleep you do get so it's more powerful or something.
So instead of focusing on like getting more sleep,
Yeah. You're like,
it's about quality. Yeah.
you're trying to make the sleep that you do get better.
Exactly. I found that whole section of the book to be super intriguing.
Right. It really challenges that whole idea
Yeah.
that more time in bed automatically means better sleep.
Totally. And the book doesn't stop there. It also debunks a ton of common sleep myths.
Oh, like what?
Like that thing about naps being bad for you.
Yeah.
Apparently that's not always true.
I always feel so guilty when I take a nap, but
Right.
maybe I shouldn't.
I know. And this book, it really made me think about
Yeah.
how much of my own anxiety about sleep is based on all these myths and misconceptions I've picked up over the years.
It's true. It's like we've been conditioned to think about sleep in this very specific way.
Right.
But this book, it makes you question everything.
Exactly. It's like we need to take a more holistic approach.
Okay.
Consider our evolutionary history
Right.
and our modern lifestyle.
Yeah. And even our individual needs when it comes to sleep.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all, that's for sure.
Exactly. This whole book was a huge eye-opener for me, honestly.
In what way?
It's made me way less stressed about sleep
Good.
and a lot more excited to try out some of the ideas in it.
Yeah, for sure. I bet it's full of a ton of surprising insights that
Yeah.
really make you want to dive deeper into this whole world of sleep.
It does.
One thing that really hit home for me in this book was how it talked about our modern obsession with being productive and how that can actually backfire when it comes to sleep.
Oh, totally. It's like we're always pushing ourselves to do more, be more, achieve more.
Right.
And then we're like, why can't I turn my brain off at night?
Exactly. The book, it argues that this always-on mentality,
Yeah.
it keeps us in this state of hyperarousal,
Hmm.
which makes it way harder to wind down and actually get the rest we need.
It's so true. We're just bombarded with information and stimulation all day long.
All the time.
It's like our brains never get a chance to really disconnect.
And it's not even just like work emails and deadlines. It's everything.
Oh, yeah.
Social media, the news, streaming services, you name it.
It's constant.
So we're constantly plugged in, and it's definitely taking a toll on our sleep.
The book makes a really good point about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big reason why so many people have trouble sleeping these days.
Makes sense.
It's like our bodies are stuck in this ancient rhythm.
Right.
But our minds are living in a totally different world.
Exactly. It's fascinating how the book brings in this evolutionary perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Like our ancestors, they didn't have to worry about blue light from their phones keeping them up at night.
Oh.
They got natural light during the day and then darkness that signaled to their bodies that it was time to rest.
It's so simple, but it makes sense.
It does.
But in our modern world, we're messing with those natural cues constantly.
All the time. Yeah. And the book really emphasizes how important it is to create a sleep-conducive environment. You know, dimming the lights in the evening, keeping the bedroom cool and dark, minimizing noise.
Yeah, like making your bedroom a little sleep sanctuary.
Exactly. Almost like mimicking the natural conditions that our bodies are craving.
It's so interesting. You know, I've always considered myself a night owl.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm way more productive in the evenings.
Mm.
And I have a really hard time falling asleep early.
Okay.
I always thought it was just like a personality thing.
Right.
But this book made me think about chronotypes.
Ah, yes. The book talks about that.
Yeah.
The science of chronotypes and how they can really influence our natural sleep patterns.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like they're morning people, night owls, and everything in between.
Yeah.
It's all linked to our internal clocks.
It was really validating to read that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm not just lazy. Maybe my body is actually wired to be more alert at night.
Right. And the book gives some good tips for how to work with your chronotype.
Okay.
Instead of trying to fight against it.
Instead of trying to force yourself into a schedule that doesn't work.
Exactly. So you can adjust your routine to better suit your internal clock.
That makes sense.
It does. One thing I really appreciated about this book was how honest it was.
Mm.
It's not like those self-help books that promise some magical solution to all your sleep problems.
Right. It's not like a quick fix.
No. It acknowledges that improving sleep is a process.
Yeah.
It takes time and effort.
It's like anything else related to health and wellness, right?
Exactly.
You got to be patient with yourself, focus on making sustainable changes.
And the book, it really dispels this myth that we need to get like a perfect 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah, like uninterrupted sleep.
Uninterrupted, yeah.
It's not realistic.
No, it's more about finding a balance that works for you.
Okay.
And allows you to feel refreshed and energized.
It really is about quality over quantity.
For sure.
You know, over the years, I've tried so many things to help me sleep.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
White noise machines, melatonin, all that stuff.
Mm.
But this book made me realize that the most powerful tools are actually our own behaviors.
It all comes back to those healthy sleep habits.
It does.
Getting regular exercise, eating a balanced diet, managing stress, and having a consistent sleep schedule.
Yeah, it sounds so simple.
It does.
But it's true. This book helped me see how interconnected all those things are when it comes to sleep.
It's like a holistic approach to well-being.
Totally.
Recognizing that how we live our lives throughout the day has a huge impact on how well we sleep at night.
You know, something that really surprised me was how much the book talked about social connection and sleep.
Oh, interesting.
It hadn't really occurred to me before.
Yeah.
But the way we sleep in modern society is so different from how our ancestors slept.
That's true. They slept in groups.
Yeah.
And the book suggests that this gave them a sense of safety and security.
Okay.
Which might have actually contributed to better sleep.
It makes you wonder if our modern obsession with solitary sleep is actually doing us a disservice.
It's an interesting thought, isn't it?
It is. Like, maybe we've lost something by isolating ourselves in our sleep habits.
Makes you think.
It does. Like, maybe cuddling with my dog on the couch before bed isn't so bad after all.
Uh-huh. Maybe not.
Maybe it's tapping into some ancient instinct for comfort and security.
It's worth considering.
You know, before reading this book,
I
used to get so frustrated with myself for not being a good sleeper.
I feel that.
But this book, like, it really shifted my perspective.
How so?
Reading about all the different things that can influence sleep.
Yeah.
And how much of it is just, like, our biology.
Right. It's not always something you can control.
Exactly. It's about understanding those influences and working with our bodies, not fighting against them.
Totally. Embracing our individual needs and rhythms.
Yes. And recognizing that there's no one right way to sleep.
It's a journey. And the book, it's like a roadmap for navigating that journey with more self-compassion and a deeper understanding of ourselves.
I love that. I've always been fascinated by the idea that our brains are active during sleep.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
It does. But the book, it explains how our brains are actually doing all this important work while we rest.
They're busy, like consolidating memories, processing emotions.
Wow.
Even sparking creativity.
And then there are dreams.
Oh, don't even get me started on dreams.
What's the deal with those weird, sometimes totally nonsensical stories our brains cook up at night?
Right. The book, it explores different theories about why we dream.
Oh, like what?
Well, like maybe dreams help us process emotions. Or maybe they allow us to practice for real-life situations.
So like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe those anxiety dreams about like showing up to work naked.
Oh, no.
Maybe they're not so pointless after all. Maybe they're helping us work through our fears and insecurities.
Okay, so maybe there's a reason for those weird dreams.
Yeah, and some researchers, they even think that dreams might be connected to creativity, like helping us make new connections and come up with new ideas.
So maybe they're not just random nonsense.
Right. Maybe they're trying to tell us something.
There's been so much buzz around sleep trackers and apps lately.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere.
I get why people are drawn to them, but I've always been a little skeptical.
The book talks about that skepticism.
It does.
Yeah, it talks about the good and the bad of sleep technology.
That's good, because while trackers can be helpful for noticing patterns, they shouldn't be taken as the ultimate truth.
Especially for people who have insomnia.
Right.
It's important to remember that those trackers, they're just tools.
Yeah.
And they should be used along with professional guidance and a holistic understanding of sleep.
So it's about finding that balance between data and intuition.
Right.
Listening to our bodies, paying attention to how we feel.
It's not about obsessing over the numbers. It's about understanding the bigger picture of our sleep health.
I like that.
Something else that I was curious about
Yeah.
was the connection between sleep and mental health.
Oh, right. We know that a bad night's sleep can make us grumpy.
Yeah, but the book goes deeper than that.
Basic.
It explores the link between sleep problems and things like anxiety and depression.
Wow. So it can actually contribute to those conditions.
Yeah, and on the flip side, improving your sleep can have a really positive impact on your mental health.
So it's a two-way street.
It is. Taking care of your sleep can help your mental health.
Okay.
And taking care of your mental health can help your sleep.
I think this book would be so helpful for anyone who wants to understand sleep better.
Especially if they've been struggling with it.
Absolutely.
It's packed with insights and practical tips.
It is.
But more importantly, it offers a whole new way of thinking about sleep that's both empowering and compassionate. One of the most fascinating parts of the book for me was when it talked about why we sleep, like from an evolutionary standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it goes way beyond just needing to physically rest our bodies.
Yeah. Right. It makes you think about sleep as like this basic need.
Yeah.
That's been shaped by like millions of years of evolution.
Totally. And it delves into some interesting theories.
Oh, like what?
Well, like the idea that sleep helped our ancestors conserve energy
Okay.
back when food was scarce.
It's like a built-in energy saver for our bodies.
Exactly. Like, think about how much energy we use when we're awake.
That's true.
And the book also talks about how sleep may have been super important for memory.
Oh, right.
Like helping our ancestors remember stuff that was important for survival.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like knowing where to find food or how to avoid predators.
Makes sense.
Those memories, they could be the difference between life or death,
Wow. Yeah, that's intense.
It is. It's like our brains were busy filing away crucial memories
Oh.
while our bodies were resting and recharging.
This is like doing double duty.
Exactly. And the book even suggests that sleep might have played a role in, like, social bonding.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, like our ancestors, they slept in groups.
Right.
And this would have provided warmth, protection, a sense of community.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if those shared experiences during sleep might have actually made their social bonds stronger.
It's a cool thought.
It really challenges how we think about sleep today.
It does. Like
Yeah.
now it's this very solitary thing we do.
Yeah, in our separate bedrooms.
Exactly. But back then it was much more communal.
And the book is saying that maybe
Uh,
that communal aspect of sleep was actually important.
it might have been. It highlights how sleep wasn't just important for each person, but for the whole group, for survival of the entire species.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does, right?
You know, I've always wondered about dreams.
Oh, yeah. Dreams are so weird.
Like, why do we have them? What's the point of all those bizarre stories our brains come up with at night?
It's true. They can be so random and confusing.
What does the book say about the purpose of dreams?
Well, it talks about a bunch of different theories. Some people think that dreams help us process our emotions.
Okay.
Others think they're a way for us to practice for real-life situations.
Like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly.
So maybe those dreams where you show up to work without any clothes on.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst.
Maybe those are actually helpful in some way.
Maybe. Like, they could be helping us deal with our fears and insecurities.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
And there are even some researchers who think that dreams might be connected to creativity.
Really?
Yeah, like they might help us make new connections and come up with new ideas.
So maybe we shouldn't just dismiss our dreams as nonsense.
Right. Maybe they're trying to tell us something.
It's definitely something to think about.
You know, there's been so much hype around sleep trackers and apps,
Oh, yeah. Everyone's talking about them.
but I've always been a little bit skeptical of them, you
I
know?
can see that.
The book actually addresses that.
Really?
Yeah, it talks about the pros and cons of sleep technology.
I mean, I can see how they could be helpful.
For sure.
Like for noticing patterns in your sleep.
Right.
But I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we rely on them too much.
It's easy to get caught up in the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book, it makes the point that you shouldn't take what the trackers say as the absolute truth.
Okay.
Especially for people who have insomnia. It's important to remember that those sleep trackers, they're just tools.
Right?
And they should be used with professional guidance and a holistic understanding of sleep.
So it's all about balance.
It is. It's not about obsessing over data.
Right.
It's about listening to your body, paying attention to how you feel.
And understanding the bigger picture of your sleep health.
Exactly.
You know, something I've always wondered about is the connection between sleep and mental health.
Oh, yeah, that's an important one.
We all know that if you don't sleep well, you can be grumpy and irritable the next day.
For sure.
But the book, it goes way deeper than that.
Oh, yeah. In what way?
Well, it talks about how sleep problems can actually contribute to things like anxiety and depression.
Wow, so it's not just a side effect. It can actually be a contributing factor.
Yeah, and on the other hand, improving your sleep can really help with your mental health.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
If you take care of your sleep, it can help your mental health.
And vice versa.
Yeah. It's all connected.
It really is.
This book has honestly been such a fascinating deep dive.
It's been really interesting to explore all these different ideas about sleep.
I know. It made me realize that sleep is way more complex than I ever thought.
It's not just about counting sheep.
Definitely not. It's about understanding how our biology, our environment, and our behavior all work together.
It's about finding what works best for you as an individual.
Exactly. You know, I started this deep dive feeling kind of stressed about my own sleep habits.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
But honestly, this book has given me a whole new perspective.
Oh, that's great.
I feel a lot more empowered to try different things and figure out what works best for me.
That's what it's all about.
And less anxious about the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal.
Hmm.
To move away from that feeling of anxiety and dread around sleep.
Right.
And start seeing it as this essential part of our well-being.
Yeah, like something to be embraced, not feared.
Exactly.
If you're listening and you've ever felt frustrated or confused about sleep,
Or just curious to learn more.
I highly recommend checking out How to Sleep Like a Caveman.
It's a really interesting read that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about sleep.
It might even help you get a better night's rest.
Fingers crossed.
Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet dreams, everyone.